Welcome to this special edition of Keeping It Real. As an author on the topic of mentorship, I've found that every successful business owner has at one time or another had a mentor, someone who has had a profound impact, not only on their career, but personal growth. Our expert panel are small business owners who have shared their stories on our platform and believe in our mission and vision of mentorship and breaking barriers to success. They contribute through mentor-mentee relationships as part of their commitment to giving back to their communities. Today, we're going to discuss the importance of mentorship for business innovation as incubators for success. To help us explore the topic, I'd like to introduce you to our expert panel. Tricia Ryan is with Food Biz Mentoring. Emily Wilcox has a company of the same name. Shelley Goldstein, Remarkable Speaking. Rad Lakhani, Consciousness with Rad. Tara McEwen with McEwen Media. Laurel Crossley with Little Wellness Company. And Mia Jarrett with Mia Jarrett Consulting. Welcome, everyone.
Nice to be here.
Nice to be here.
So to start the topic of our discussion today, I thought we would begin with what is your definition of mentorship? And I'm going to ask Tricia Ryan, as your business is mentoring, maybe you can give us some insight into what you feel the definition of mentorship actually is.
So I guess maybe canning it, it could be an experienced or trusted advisor who provides guidance, support, knowledge to a less experienced individual, which might be referred to as a mentor or protege. There's a word we don't use often. And I think that the mentorship can involve any of the following elements: guidance and advice, support and encouragement, knowledge sharing, networking opportunities and introductions, role modeling. And I think there's a long-term relationship, which is a very important part, because I think that's where trust is built and where you get to really know your mentee or protege. And when you do, as the mentor, encounter opportunities, like even today in our introductions, I want to reach out to people and say, oh, by the way, have you heard of? So that's the fun part. And there is the part of the mentor also being really stimulated, because gets the creative juices going. And I'm not going to give my word away till the end, but there's a lot of great things about being a mentor. And I think a lot of personal growth comes from that too.
Yeah, that's so true, because I think, it's almost becomes symbiotic, right? Like we learn as much from our mentee when we're a mentor. Would you agree with that, Brad? What do you think of that idea?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I actually feel like that's the number one reason why I love coaching and mentoring so much, and why, although I do a lot in group format, that one-to-one connection is so powerful, because we are able to be objective when we're looking at somebody's life, right? It's so much easier to go, oh, I know exactly what the next step is, what the block is. And then my favorite question is always coming back to, well, how can I apply that to myself? Like obviously the wisdom comes from experience, but then it's how can I bring that back to myself? Where could I do that more myself? And I find when those relationships are so special and sacred, there is this mirroring that ends up happening, that it's like if it's coming through you, it's for you too.
Sure.
And so it's probably one of my favorite things about mentorship.
That's a really good point. I'm going to ask Mia to give us the difference between a role model and a mentor, because I think they're kind of different. Mia, what would you say is the difference between a role model and a mentor?
I think the primary difference is that a role model is someone that you might look up to or want to imitate, whereas a mentor is someone who guides by giving away. Right. Although you could be both by, absolutely, you could be a mentor and a role model. I feel like the most important piece around being a mentor is the integrity that you come into it with, and the intention, which is really to give away your gifts, to give away your knowledge, to give away your time, to give away your space, from a place of absolute, gratitude and compassion and love. Really, that would be mentorship for me.
Right. Now, Emily, you have a wonderful business where you help people concentrate on not only on passive income, but in coming into their own in terms of their money wishes, needs, and wants. So as a mentor, how do you help people sort of move around some of the blocks or the barriers that they may have around their own thoughts and processes?
Yeah, I really like operating at the intersection of energetics and strategy. So when we tap into the energy that's creating the stuckness or the block, that's often where the big aha moment happens. And you understand that whatever you're projecting onto your relationship with money, whatever's happening there, usually didn't start there. It started with some belief about yourself or what you're capable of. And once we get the energy right, then there's a strategic piece, which is, okay, so then how do we add new streams of income to the business or take more income from active to passive? And so we need both. But I think when we address kind of the thoughts, feelings, belief, and energy first in the mentorship relationship, it makes everything else go so smoothly.
Yeah, for sure. Now, Tara, as the media expert of our group, you know, you come from a totally different perspective in terms of helping people overcome fear, really. So as a mentor, is there something that you, when you're looking for a mentee relationship, that you're looking for a quality or an energy or a skill level that perhaps that you know that you can sort of start with that gives them the wins?
With the mentees that I look for, it's not so much about the skill. One question I get asked all the time is, do I have what it takes? And I always say, that's not for me to answer. That's for you to answer. Because the work that I do, especially leading more into the mentorship side of things, I describe my work as where PR meets personal development, because it's about empowering and uncovering and unearthing the expert voice that is already inside the person. So the key to that is the willingness. You know, there's a lot of conversation about, you know, transferring knowledge and giving information and support. The information and knowledge and the people I work with is always there. But what I bring to the table as a mentor is I hold the space. I hold the belief until you're strong enough to believe it in yourself. That's what the process is. And I think that's a great aspect to a mentor is we just hold people to what they want to achieve in those moments where they're feeling wobbly. To me, that's been the most rewarding part of the mentor process.
Oh, I love the word wobbly, because who hasn't been wobbly at some point in time in their career, right? Now, Shelley, I bet you, I mean, I know that you have helped folks sort of pick center stage when they're doing a TEDx talk, as an example. You know, you help give them the confidence. So in terms of a mentor relationship, and to build on Tara's point of the wobbly, I mean, you know, speaking makes people wobbly. Let's be serious, right? I mean, no matter how experienced you are as a speaker, I think we all get those little butterflies every once in a while if we're going to be standing up in front of an audience. So when you're a mentor working with someone who may be a little bit wobbly, is there something that you can give to them or that you impart on them as the mentor in those relationships?
Absolutely. And if you're not nervous, it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
You need to be nervous. You can reframe that nervousness, that anxiety to excitement. And just saying that word excitement, you can't not help but smile, but we take that energy and it's part of our motivation. And I think that's one of the great things about mentoring people is the motivation, not only my motivation in helping somebody see and discover their best selves, but that person motivating me, being the childlike, or having that childlike mindset to continually learn and grow. So I think it's a two-way street. And on the energy piece, accepting it and reframing it into a way that it serves you. Those nerves may never go away. So lean into that and use it as a motivational force.
Yeah, that's really a great point. Now, Laurel, when you're working with a mentee, is there some sort of expectation that you have? Because obviously as a mentor, there's huge expectations for us as mentors, right? In terms of being able to impart certain skills and experience on the people that are looking to us for guidance. But is there something that you look for in a mentee? Is there a quality that maybe comes to mind that you say, I can help that person because they have this quality that I can sort of build on?
I think for me, it's I'm the accidental mentor.
Oh, I like that word.
Right. And so without knowing that someone may need guidance, a question is posed.
Right.
And then I venture off into my repertoire, I guess what's that thing? The Rolodex in my brain. And I can pull out information and content. And that's how the mentorship, the mentees come to me is that way.
Right.
And so it is very organic. It does come, I know somebody mentioned, from a place of love. It comes from a place of love and really wanting to give back, because I know as I morphed through the several businesses that I've owned and operated, it has literally, it's been a tough road.
Sure.
And, what we've talked about is a little bit of confidence in being able to ask the right people at the right moment for the right information.
Yeah, so true.
And
I'm going to ask you ladies because we've all had mentors, right? I mean, some good, some bad, some indifferent, right? We all learn something from them. So I'm going to ask you to personally share, if you had to say that you learned a skill, just one skill from a mentor that you've had in your own relationship, what would that skill be? And I'll start with Mia. What would be the skill that you think that you might have learned from one of the mentors that you've had in your career?
Well, probably one of the most profound ones that's not relative really to business is from my mom, who taught us from day one, without knowing it, to cook and to have sit down meals and to share as a family around the table. And for me, that is such a profound part of my life with my son, with our grandbabies, is the act of cooking and sharing a meal and conversing. And that to me is an invaluable gift that I was given.
Family, right? Putting
Family.
family. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's really important. Emily, what about you? What skill do you think that you may have learned from a mentor that's helped you in your career?
How to think. So typically when I'm hiring a mentor, it's because, I perceive them as being ahead of me in one aspect of business. And so it's not that they're necessarily teaching me a tangible skill. In fact, normally not, but it's more that there's my way of approaching a situation. And then when I hear their approach, I'm getting a window into how they think and the way that they approach things from this elevated perspective, from being more advanced or more wealthy or whatever it is. And that's been very transformative for me.
Tricia, what about you? What sort of skill? One of the things I was joking with everyone before we went live is I was saying, we're all we've had years and years of experience in terms of our careers, even before we jumped into mentorship. So I know that along the way, there's been many leadership skills that we've learned that sort of cross the fence between business and personal. So is there a skill or a quality that you think that you've taken with you? To Mia's point, you sort of have taken it with you through your entire career?
This is an interesting, I know there's books written about it, but I think it's the growth mindset. Having mentors, particularly early in your career, you wouldn't necessarily define that they had one, but that they created yours. And then when I do work with the people that we mentor in our programs, those people with a growth mindset really seem to jump out. Some of it may be very intuitive, but you can also see once you begin to stoke the coals that happens for people. And so there's lots of great words, and this is an amazing group of women that are all talked about, love, support, encouragement. But I know there is a book on growth mindset, and I enjoyed reading it, and it stimulated me. And I think that being in environments where you can create that for those that you work with, it continues to stimulate you as well. And I think, isn't that what we admire about some of the other people that are not necessarily mentors? And when we read the biographies or, see the captions of working with the Steve Jobs, there are lots of things about him I didn't necessarily admire, but it was the fact that he did have a growth mindset. And it's pushing through the barriers that we all say can't be done for certain industries or opportunities. And so we have Uber today and all sorts of wonderful new businesses that have come out of an AI and whatever, because of a growth mindset.
Yeah,
so
very true.
that would be one that stands out for me.
Very true. Now, Rad, you've had this very stellar career in law and in conflict resolution, whether it be with families or businesses and, individuals. So is there a quality or a skill that you were able to carry through some of the things that you have done, primarily through your law career, that you've now taken into your entrepreneurial journey?
Okay, so this is a different question than the one before.
Not necessarily, because I still think it's a skill that you,
Yeah.
or a mindset that you had to take
think
with
so
you,
too.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. And it actually parlays really beautifully because I was going to answer the first question, which was something that a mentor has taught me. And the number one thing was how to transform out of your biggest challenges, how to transform your biggest challenges into a moment of exponential growth. And I ironically was then a divorce lawyer to answer the second question, which is, knowing how I've moved myself through living on my own since I was 16 years old and being separated from my whole family, losing a child at 31 at delivery, being able to not just get through them, because that's important, but actually turn it into a moment of exponential growth.
Right. Right.
Is such an empowering tool. Yeah, because I think character is built not on a sunny day. And I think when we can master how to get through the worst times and really squeeze out all the lemonade from the lemon, then nothing can stop you. And I remember my mentor saying to me on a driveway in a car while I was in tears after an event, I was 17, missing my mom. And she said to me, "You get through this. Just get through this,
right,
and you will be a force to reckon with." And there was a part of me that I believed what she was saying. Like there was a part where it struck a chord in me, whether she was making it up or if it was real. I was like that.
Yeah, for sure.
I would love to be that force. And it helped me again when I had bigger challenges. And then of course, as a divorce lawyer, it was my favorite line to share with clients on the first appointment, because it was often one of the worst days of their lives to come meet me, unfortunately, I'll be at the company. And I could see the sense of feeling lost and not being able to see a light at the end of the tunnel.
Sure.
And I almost always, like 99.9% of the time, would say to clients, "You get through this. There is a whole huge light at the end of the tunnel, and you will become a more powerful version of yourself. And this is here to teach you something. Your ex-spouse is here to teach you something about yourself, about life. And if you cannot bypass this experience, but learn those things,
right,
you're going to be unstoppable."
Yeah, that's a really great quality. That's certainly something to consider. Now, Tara, you were in a situation where you were the behind the scenes guru for the people who were out front. So do you find that there was a skill that because we all know that there's amazing people behind the scenes that make things work. And so not necessarily being center stage doesn't mean that you don't have a lot of wonderful, leadership skills and mentoring skills. So is there something that someone taught you as you were coming up the ranks as a TV producer that you were able to now translate into your business?
I love this question because in the world of TV, there is no time for anything, let alone mentorship. A lot of it is just straightforward information exchange. This is what we need to do in order to get a show to air. So it's but at the same time, it's very group focused driven. So we all have the same desired outcome. Here's what we all need to do in order to meet the end goal. But even in that environment, I still had personal goals that I wanted. There were things that I wanted to do with my career. And I think I've just always naturally been a self-starter and a self-leader. So I love Laurel's phrasing that she's an accidental mentor. I would just naturally find people in the newsroom, in the production office, where I could just have a conversation and say, hey, I'm thinking of doing this.
Right.
What do you think of? And just running an idea by someone who is sometimes it was even more experienced. They just had a different perspective.
Sure.
So running my ideas through someone else. So I think that is such a great skill. We tend to think that these mentor relationships need to be formal, structured, that we need to be in crisis, that we're working through something challenging and difficult. But sometimes it's just, hey, I actually want to be in front of the camera. Sure. What do you think of that? What's involved in that journey? So now as a business owner, I just have this natural habit and discipline of seeking out people who have the results that I want.
Right.
And those are the people that I take my questions to when I'm facing challenges, when I'm facing my edges. I'm not going to my mother, who has a very high risk tolerance, who's afraid of everything. She's not going to be the person who's going to guide me through what the next phase of my business is. Other business owners who are running, businesses for 20 years, who have, a team of hundreds of people, they know what I need to learn in order to get to that next phase. So that's just always been a natural way of me finding this information and just seeking these natural mentor relationships of just people who they have the outcome that I want. So I need to talk to them for a little bit.
That's a really good point. Now, Laurel, I know that one of the things that you do all the time even when I met Laurel, she has the most amazing sense of humor and uses humor all the time. So maybe you can share with us, how did this humor become part of not only your personality, but how you attack situations in business and how you find solutions through humor? Because I would venture to guess that anyone who's looking to you for a mentor, it's because of your sense of humor.
Could be, or they run screaming the other way. Well, it's funny. I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. And so I watched my mom and dad owned a business together, the same business I'm working with now, which is very bizarre. And that's a long story, but I could see how they worked together. And the thing that got them through was the sense of humor. And the other thing I learned from both of them is there's always a way. I love workarounds. When someone says I can't do that, I'm like stink, you can't. We're going to figure out the workaround. And so, and many mentors have said that to me, there's always a way. Don't look at it through that lens. There's a TV thing for you. Don't look at it through that lens. Open wide and take a look. But humor, really, at the end of the day, sometimes it's enough to snap the situation in a completely different direction that people hadn't considered. Because when you start to laugh, you let go of all the fears, and it brings joy back into maybe a potentially difficult situation.
Yeah, so true. And Shelley, what would you say has been your leadership skill or personality trait that you've learned through a mentorship experience?
There's so many. I'm still learning. But the first thing that comes to mind was when I was a young costume designer working. I was apprenticed to Theone Aldridge, 42nd Street, La Cage aux Folles, huge shows in New York. And this was a dream come true for a young costumer. I was so task driven and I was fast, and everybody just loved the fact that I could get so much done in such a short amount of time. And I was just buzzing, burning holes in my shoes. And I was panicked one of the opening nights of a show. And I was just in a sweat because the shoes didn't match and the cloak wasn't right and the sequins weren't matching. And Theone pulled me aside and she said, "Darling, you can't be standing up on stage sewing the button on Zaza's dress as that curtain goes up. It's enough." And that has stayed with me to this very day, through every career, through everything I do. I'm enough. Prioritize. Take what's important and go with that. I can't do everything.
That's really great advice, because as entrepreneurs sometimes we're running after the things that we think we have to do everything, especially sometimes when we first start out, we have to, right? Because we don't have the financial wherewithal to be able to engage other people to help us out. But then at other times, I think we're afraid to let go. So that's a really wonderful piece of advice for anyone who may be looking for a mentor. And it segues me into the question that I'm going to open to the group and whoever would like to answer. So if there is someone in our viewing and listening audience who's looking for a mentor, what advice would you have for them in finding a connection? Does anybody want to provide their thoughts on, so someone's sitting in listening to us, what advice would you give them, Rad?
I think sometimes it really does happen accidentally, like Laurel said. So in my case, it was very accidental. But if you were consciously looking for a mentor, which is also a very beautiful process, I would say two things. I would say, number one, find someone who has the energy, who's become the person that you aspire to be. Right? And if that person's willing to take you on, what you want to see reflected ideally is that they can see you getting to where you want to go. Like they hold the standard so high that you are then moving up to the standard, right? So they're living the standard themselves,
right?
And that they are able to hold it for you in such a beautiful way. I would say
wonderful advice. Yeah, that's really wonderful advice. And Tara, what would you like to add to that?
I would say if anyone's looking for a mentor, a great place to start is to get specific with what you're looking for. I think the weakest request is, well, can I pick your brain? Like, no,
no one has time for that.
What you're looking for might change. So still be curious, still be flexible of what the mentor relationship is going to uncover. But be specific, right? I'm looking for, I have a goal. I have an end point that I want to reach. I know what that looks like, and I need someone to guide and bridge. The mentor, again, they have a wealth of information to share and skills and guidance. They need direction as well. Like, what am I helping you? Otherwise, it's going to be a waste of time for everyone.
Yeah, that's so true. Mia?
Yeah, I just have a comment about, I believe as mentors, we're all there to create a ripple effect. And on the flip side, there has to be great stillness in order to experience the ripple, right? So our mentees have to be ready. So what's the intention behind the ripple effect? And is the mentee ready? Because it's in that great stillness that all of that beauty, that wisdom, that knowledge, that energy can actually be received.
Oh, that's so true.
And I'll add on to that with the space, the stillness, and for me, looking for a mentor is someone who has that, who's going to give me that space to explore and to find my own path. So it's influential, it's inspiring. Here's what I can share, but offer that space for that individual to just explore and make it their own.
Yeah, so true. Laurel?
I am very, I find the Indigenous community such a beautiful space. And when I think about mentors, I think about the grandmothers. I think about the generational influences that offer up the guidance from a profoundly personal perspective. That's the triple Ps. If you can say that 3 times fast. But finding those, so they may not necessarily be, someone that's in business that has reached that level. It might just be the grandmother, the great auntie, that's there, that can offer up that sage advisement that gives us something on a different level, and I think a more spiritual level.
Yeah, that's so true. So, we all know that mentorship it leads to an incubator for success, because we all have these great ideas. We sit back, we ponder them, we mull them over, and then something gives us pause for action. And usually that's the mentor relationship, right? It provides you with that foundational element to give you the get up and go to say, I'm going to do this. So how important do you feel mentorship is for the future of our communities? Does anyone want to chime in and provide some thoughts on that? Laurel?
It's funny because I was thinking about, when does mentorship start? It starts from the moment we arrive on this earth.
So true.
And, we have mentors all the way along our life's path. We have parents, we have teachers, we have, other centers of influence. And so, I think that those people, if we could just extrapolate all the content from all those centers of influence, it would give us that great path so that we can remind ourselves, okay, what did I need in that moment? What did I need in that moment? What did I need in that moment? Right? So you track it,
for sure. Now, Tricia, you in the business of mentorship obviously believe very strongly in the community aspect and how we can push it forward. Do you feel that from a business perspective that the idea of mentorship is as important, if not more important now than ever before in the idea of entrepreneurship?
It's interesting because I was looking at my little list of notes about mentorship being knowledge transfer, community building. If our mentees are successful, everyone's, they're going to do what we did, hopefully, and they give back. But I think back to Trish, where we met. I was running the Women in Leadership Mentorship Program. This is more than 20 years ago. And this is an association you could join for free. There wasn't a fee to join. What I liked about their mentorship program is the mentee applied, and they did pay a nominal fee, couple $100. And a great deal of time was spent matching people in the program. And then I facilitated that program for 5 or 6 years in Ontario. And we had some great events, but that was also the excuse for the mentor and mentee to get together.
Sure.
And it was formalized and structured in this particular program. And I was thinking about that because I have 3 mentees right now, and it's kind of loose. And this whole discussion has brought this up again for me. And I was thinking, I haven't reached out to so-and-so lately.
Right.
Yet I'm listening to, and looking at these notes saying, well, we each have a responsibility in this relationship. Sure. I'm not just the one that needs to reach out and be the idea generator, etc. But, diversity and inclusion came up from a comment that Laurel made about the Indigenous communities and their transfer of knowledge. So when I think about the community, it is about, yes, it's not just professional development and helping someone in their career. It's all the side effects of a mentorship program, which is working with someone that's not your ethnic group. It's not your attachment, sexuality, or whatever, opening your mind. The diversity inclusion gets covered. Sustainability is such a big issue for the Gen X, Gen Z, and as a baby boomer, I went out and said, I'm going to become part of LEAF, Leaders in Environmentally Accountable Food Service, because I was working in that space. I know nothing about sustainability. I'm a boomer, but I'm going to learn about it, right? And it got me back into mentoring again in a less structured way. So I think the structured programs keep us in contact versus the looser ones, unless someone specifically in your company or organization says, will you be my?
Yeah.
But also in part of this question is to ask other people who've had mentors, how they did it, where they found them. Because I'm looking at this group of amazing women and all willing to give their knowledge, time, support, etc. to a community. And there's a lot of ways to be involved in a mentorship program. But I'm just observing, I'm kind of thinking the structured ones, sometimes when they're done sort of over a 3 to 4 month period, can be quite rewarding on both sides because the rules and definitions are a little bit there. And the person, when I was running the program, I had people like Trish come to speak to stimulate more conversation and be the excuse to get everyone together to do their update sharing, because mentorship doesn't always happen in a trajectory, as we know. And people can lose their job in the middle of you're being their mentor, and all of a sudden what you're doing to support them can be different. But I do believe the more successful all these entrepreneurs are, which we know entrepreneurship is carrying the burden of US Canadian business is carrying, sort of communities, not corporate America. And I'm not talking about blue chip clients and they're not doing great things. It's the employment and everything comes from from entrepreneurship, and it is critically important. And I think having an understanding of the ecosystems that are out there, the US, you've got the small business development centers. There's 2,000 of them across the United States, and that's free coaching for any small business owner,
Right.
at least to find people and those kinds of things. I mean, I am in amazement of how many innovation kind of centers are now working, let's say, in the food ecosystem, but there's so many different ways to do this, and somewhere in there, the mentor matters in terms of guiding and suggesting where people go for resources. So I think it has tremendous spell.
Right. Tara, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on the concept of mentorship as a form of community building. I mean, you think of all the communication tools that have come up in the last 20 years, like all of social media. Its intention of sharing information, building community, knowledge transfer, even how we're joining on this call today over Zoom. The work that I do with clients, thought leadership is a way of mentoring in a more anonymous way. And I think, once you've accumulated a certain amount of knowledge that you want to share, it's a deeper way of experiencing what you've accomplished in your career, right? It's no longer something that was just for me and my needs. I can now pay forward everything that I've experienced, everything that I've learned and continue to learn. And it just becomes this self-perpetual self-improvement machine for everyone involved, mentors and mentees. And we have all these amazing tools to share this information everywhere around the world.
Yeah, so true. Well, as we wrap up our conversation today, I want to ask each and every one of you to share a word that describes for you what mentorship is all about. So we'll just go around the room, so to speak, and ask everyone to share a word that you feel really describes your experience as perhaps a mentor or even as a mentee. So Emily, why don't we start with you? What would be the word that you would use to describe your experience?
My word is expansive. And I would say that's been true on both sides. When I've been a mentee and a mentor, it's a very expanding relationship.
Oh, so true. Mia?
I would use the word ripple effect.
Yeah, and you did a wonderful example of telling us how that sort of works. So thank you for that. Rad?
It's similar to me. I would say legacy is the word that keeps ringing, and I'm like, I got to get this word into this call because I kept so thanks for asking, Trish. It's a legacy that expands for the mentee and the mentor, right? Because everything that you've learned and all the hard knocks and all the lessons, you get to infiltrate that juice into someone else. And so your legacy continues. And also for the receiver, it speeds up and propels their legacy that they're going to leave. So, yeah.
That's a great word. Tricia, what would be your word?
Fulfilling.
Ah, that's a really good word. Yeah. Laurel?
Belief.
Okay.
So I believe in, it's a reciprocal relationship of believing. That mentor believes in the mentee and the mentee believes, and it's this beautiful, we're here to support one another, and we believe in each other's worth and your story and where you're going.
Oh, fantastic. Tara?
Purpose. Your purpose, your mentee's purpose, what we're here for.
Yeah, so true. And Shelley?
Autonomy. We talked about role model versus mentor, and getting all this information, sharing all this information in this space is really, it's for me, having that autonomy to take it and own it on your own and turn it into something that is uniquely yours.
So true. Well, Mia?
I just have one quick comment. A mentor just said this to me recently, and it just keeps ringing true with everybody that's speaking today. And he said, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And when the student is really ready, the teacher disappears. And then you move on to the next teacher. And I just feel like I feel like you're all just saying that, right?
Oh, that's such a wonderful way to wrap up. Yeah, wrap up what we're all about. So I'd like to thank each and every one of you for being part of this expert panel and sharing your stories and point of view with our viewing and listening audience. We certainly appreciate your contributions as business owners and wish you continued success as you lead by example as both role models and mentors in your communities. And to our viewing and listening audience, if you'd like to connect with one of our panel guests, you'll find their story and contact information in the description portion below. I'm Trish Tonai, author, artist, and founder and host for the series. And if you're interested in sharing your business story, visit our website at shareyourstories.online. In the meantime, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube or podcast channel. And I'd like to thank you for joining us as we look forward to meeting you next time for another edition of Keeping It Real.